I always thought my college life would be peaceful, like attending classes, doing assignments, hanging out at the campus coffee shop, and trying not to look too awkward when talking to others. But then Jaden came along, and everything changed completely. The first time I saw him was on a Monday morning in social psychology class. I was sitting at the back, trying to avoid the glaring neon lights and noisy conversations. And Jaden, he walked in as if the whole room was his personal stage. A gray hoodie, slightly messy hair, a crossbody bag covered in stickers, and a faint smile that seemed harmless but made my heart skip a beat. I don't know if this was fate's punishment or not, but that day the professor asked us to switch seats to encourage interaction. And so Jaden, in a decision that sounded casual but felt somewhat intentional, sat down next to me. "Can I sit here?" he asked, his voice light and warm, the kind that makes people soften more than they should. "Of course," I replied, trying to seem calm. But the truth was, my mind was starting to scramble. He turned and smiled.
"I'm Jaden."
"Ethan." I extended my hand, and every part of me hoped he wouldn't shake it, because I wasn't sure I could act normal after that touch. But he did, and his hand was warmer than I imagined. It was a very short 0.5 seconds, but enough to shatter the small world I'd carefully built around myself. I knew I was drawn to Jaden from the first day, but I didn't think things would go this far, especially in the strange way we were about to embark on. It started in the third week of the semester. That day, Jaden ran after me as I left class, his breath visible in the cold air. "Ethan, wait up." I stopped, my heart pounding unreasonably, as it always did when he got close. "Are you free?" he asked. "I think so. What's up?" Jaden glanced around, then pulled me to a quieter spot in the hallway where fewer people passed by. He scratched his forehead, clearly struggling to find the right words. Could you do me a kind of weird favor?" Depends on how weird," I said with a light smile, trying to ease the tension. Jaden took a deep breath. "I need you to pretend to be my boyfriend for a while." I froze for 2 seconds. 1, because it sounded like a plot from those romantic movies I watch at 1 a.m. 2, because I'm gay but I've never told anyone, and I certainly didn't expect a guy like Jaden to ask this. "Why me?" I asked, my voice hoarse. "Because," Jaden sighed, "my little sister is coming to visit this weekend. She thinks I'm dating someone, and if I lie to her again, she'll figure it out. I don't want to disappoint her." I looked into Jaden's eyes. There was something truly sincere there. Not the manipulative kind, but the type that makes you want to help. "Why not ask a girl?" I asked, trying to hide my confusion. "I'm not dating anyone, and I'm not sure the people I know would be willing to help." He looked at me a little longer. "Ethan, you were the first person I thought of. Reason told me to say no. This was too dangerous. My heart gets moved easily, and Jaden, he was too close to everything I'd been trying to avoid. But standing in front of that tired smile, I knew my answer. "Okay," I said, suppressing a sigh inside. "I'll help you." Jaden lit up. "Really? Ethan, you've saved my life." In that moment, he threw his arm around my shoulder and pulled me into a hug. It was brief, but enough to make my heart plummet from the 10th floor straight to the ground. His arms were warm, his chest brushed against mine, and the familiar soap scent from his hoodie made me want to stay in his embrace longer. But that was just the beginning. A hug, a touch, an unintended thank you, and I knew it was all fake. Fake for his plan, fake for his sister, fake as if he loved me. But what unsettled me more was, each touch, each hug, felt nothing like fake to me at all. I always thought pretending to be lovers would just mean holding hands for show or standing close for the role. But it turned out Jaden had a much more enthusiastic definition. That very afternoon after we agreed, he texted me with a cute smiling emoji that made me stare at the screen for a few seconds. "Jaden, Ethan, we need to practice a bit. To make it natural." I texted back, "Natural for how long?" He replied right away, "Until my sister believes it. And maybe until I believe it too." I read that line over and over, searching for any sign of joking. But there was no emoji. No haha. No usual playfulness from him. Just that sentence. Enough to confuse me so much that I sat up straight. That evening, we met at the grassy area near the dorm, where students often gather, listen to music, play ball, or lie down to stargaze. Jaden got there first, leaning back on the grass with his headphones half on, his hair tousled by the light breeze. He looked up when he saw me approaching. "Ethan, sit here." I sat beside him but kept a safe 2-hand distance. Jaden looked at me like I'd done something wrong. "Ethan, we're fake boyfriends. Sitting that far away, who would believe it?" he said, then pulled me closer as if it were the most obvious thing. I nearly lost my balance. "Oh, sorry. I'm not used to it." "If you're not used to it, get used to it." Jaden smiled. A smile with a hint of mischief but also an unreasonable gentleness. "You okay?" No, I was completely not okay. But I nodded. The first practice session started with something simple, holding hands. Jaden turned and held out his hand. "Let's try this first." I looked at his hand, broad, with long fingers, warm. It wasn't the first time I'd noticed his hands in class. But this time was different. This time it was for me. Or at least, it seemed that way. I placed my hand in his, and in an instant, his warmth spread through me, making my heart beat unnaturally fast. Jaden raised an eyebrow. "Hey, why's your hand so cold?" "No. Just the wind." I tried to answer normally. "Or is it because of me?" He said it softly, teasing. I coughed. "Don't joke." "I'm not joking." He shrugged, but his eyes weren't playful. "Ethan, if holding hands makes you uncomfortable, how are we supposed to pretend to be in love?" I tried to steady my voice. "I'll get used to it." "Yeah. But no need to be so tense." Jaden squeezed my hand tighter. Not hard, but enough for me to feel every pulse from his palm. In that moment, everything around us grew strangely quiet. Students laughing in the distance, electric cars whizzing by. It all faded. There was only his hand. And me. He looked up at the sky. If I touch too much by accident, tell me, okay?" "Why do you think I'd mind that?" Jaden turned. "You seem like the type who gets startled easily." "I'm not." "Ethan." He said my name so lightly that I stopped mid-sentence. "I just want things between us to be comfortable." I didn't know what to say, so I just nodded. But then Jaden started touching more. When he told stories, his elbow would brush against me unconsciously. When he laughed, his shoulder would lean into mine. When I said something silly, he'd lightly rub my back, like it was a habit. I didn't know if this was practice, but to me, each contact carried weight. And that was the problem. "Jaden, this feels a bit too real," I said. "Real is what makes it natural." He turned to face me, his gaze deepening. "Ethan, I don't want to be some awkward fake boyfriend. If we're doing this, I want to do it right." "Right?" I echoed. "Right means caring about you, so that when others look, they see us as truly close." He paused, then said more softly, "And so you feel at ease too." That sentence confused me more than anything before it. "Why do you want me to feel at ease?" "Because you're helping me. Because you're kind. Because I want you to be comfortable around me." Jaden looked down at our still intertwined hands. "Ethan, I don't want you to feel like this is just me taking advantage." My heart felt like it was being squeezed. I was the one who should fear getting lost in illusions. I was the one who should remind him this was just an agreement. But Jaden said it first. "I don't think you're taking advantage of me," I replied softly. "Good." Jaden smiled, the kind of gentle smile I only saw when he was being sincere. Then he did something I wasn't prepared for. Jaden lifted his hand and adjusted the lapel of my jacket on my shoulder. A simple gesture, but strangely intimate. Each fingertip brushing against my shirt made my skin heat up. "See," he said softly, "no need to be afraid. We're just acting, right?" But there was one problem. I wasn't sure someone who was just acting would look at me with such gentle eyes. If the first practice session left my heart in chaos, The days that followed made me question whether I was acting or actually falling in love. Things got more serious on Thursday evening, 2 days before Jaden's sister arrived. I was sitting in the library study area working on an essay when I got a message. Jaden, Ethan, you free? I need to try a few more things. A few things? I tried not to overthink it. What do you want to try? Jaden, just come to the basketball court behind the dorm. I'll explain later. I closed my laptop, my heart thumping inexplicably, and headed out. The night breeze was chilly, and the basketball court was almost empty. Only the yellow lights cast down, and Jaden's figure sitting on the low bleachers, his dark green hoodie standing out against the dim background. Before I could say anything, Jaden stood up. Ethan, over here. I approached, still wary. What are we practicing this time? Jaden shoved his hands in his pockets, looking a bit shy, rare for him. My sister. She's really observant. She picks up on every little detail. And that means? It means we have to look like a real couple. Jaden looked at me longer than usual. Not just holding hands. I swallowed hard. We have to. Do what else? Jaden stepped closer, making the distance dangerously small. He said softly, almost in a breath, you know, normal couples don't just hold hands. They're a bit more intimate. My eyes widened. Wait, you mean not what you're thinking? Jaden chuckled lightly and shook his head. I mean, we need to get used to standing close, arm around each other, to look like two people who are truly comfortable with each other's bodies. I exhaled slowly, but my heart was still racing wildly from that momentary misunderstanding. Jaden moved even closer, now just a few centimeters between us. Okay? Just practicing. So when we meet my sister, you don't flinch. I nodded, though I wasn't sure I could control myself. He started by placing his hand on my waist. Just a light touch, but it was enough to make my whole body stiffen. Relax, Ethan, Jaden said softly. We're acting. I know, but you're standing like a statue. I bit my lip. It's my first time acting like this. Jaden smiled softly, then slid his hand around my back, pulling me a little closer. Not too close, but closer than I thought I could handle. I felt his warmth, his breathing, the familiar light scent of his body wash. Everything about Jaden was too close, too real. Better, he said. Now try this. He brought his other hand up, placing it on my shoulder, his fingers lightly tracing my collar as if it were the most natural thing in the world. My heart exploded for the second time in a minute. Jaden, I whispered.
I'm okay.
I'm just a bit. You don't have to be shy. He looked right at me, his voice dropping lower. Ethan, I won't do anything to make you uncomfortable. Somehow, that sentence made me want to lean into him even more. Now your turn, Jaden said, his voice full of anticipation. My turn. For what? You try touching me back. He raised an eyebrow. If you just stand there, it'll be obvious it's fake. I lifted my hand and touched the side of his hoodie. He relaxed immediately, as if encouraging me to keep going. Good. Jaden gave me a gentle smile, the kind that could make anyone melt. You're doing it right. I tried to steady my breathing. Why do I feel like you're really experienced at this? I just observe. Jaden winked. Plus, I want us to look as natural as possible. He said that, but none of his touches felt like acting at all. Then Jaden suddenly pulled me even closer, chest to chest, breaths mingling, an intimacy that made me feel out of place in time, even though this was his own request. What are you? I gasped. This is how we'll pose when my sister takes pictures. He said it softly, as if only for my ears. You okay? No, but I nodded. Jaden glanced down at my lips for a brief second, so short it might have been an illusion. Then he quickly pulled his hands away, creating a small gap. Okay, he said lightly, but his voice was a bit hoarse, like it was caught in his throat. I think we've practiced enough. I tried to breathe normally. Yeah, enough. But before I could fully compose myself, Jaden. You blush really cute. I nearly stopped breathing.
J'adonne.
He laughed and turned away. Let's head back. Tomorrow we have to play it perfectly. And I stood there for a few seconds trying to figure out in this story who was actually practicing and who was accidentally making it real. Because if it was just acting, why was Jaden's gaze so warm when he touched me? The day Jaden's sister arrived, Saturday, I tried to remind myself to stay calm. But in reality, I was standing in front of the mirror in my dorm room, adjusting my sweater for the 12th time. Every glance at myself made me sigh. Why did I agree to this, Ethan? I muttered, unsure if I was scolding myself or trying to reassure. But then I remembered Jaden's eyes when he asked me. Sincere, pleading, with a touch of anxiety. And I knew if I had the choice again, I'd still say yes. My phone buzzed with a message. Jaden, I'm waiting at the dorm gate. Come down. And Ethan, don't be tense. Just stay by my side. I lingered on that last line longer than needed. Just stay by my side. As if it were normal. I took a deep breath, grabbed my coat, and left the room. When I got there, Jaden was leaning against the railing by the gate. He was in a denim jacket, his hair styled neater than usual. A polished look I'd never seen on him before. When he spotted me, he smiled immediately. A smile that nearly melted away all my tension. Ethan, over here, Jaden called. His voice light but drawing me toward him more forcefully than any gesture. As soon as I was beside him, he wrapped his arm around my waist. The move was so natural that I almost believed it wasn't an act. Okay, Jaden whispered. Now we look like a real couple. I'm still a bit nervous, I admitted. Jaden tilted his head, his forehead nearly brushing my temple. I'm here. Nothing to be afraid of. Why could his simple words throw my heart so off rhythm? I didn't know, but I didn't have time to think, because his sister was stepping out of the white car parked at the gate. Anna, Jaden's sister, looked energetic, bright, and incredibly sharp. The moment she saw us, she narrowed her eyes, as if dissecting every tiny movement. Big bro. Anna ran over and hugged Jaden. Jaden smiled radiantly. Anna, how was the trip? Fine. But, she turned to me. This is Ethan, right? I nodded lightly, trying to keep my voice steady. Nice to meet you. Anna scanned me from head to toe. The gaze of someone who could unmask any lie in a blink. Bro talks about you a lot. I choked slightly. Talks? About what? Jaden immediately tightened his arm around me, as if bolstering the story. Yeah, just a few things, he said with an awkward smile. But his hand gave my waist a gentle squeeze. A tiny one, enough to convey you okay? Don't worry, and I'm here. I wasn't sure if Jaden was aware of each touch, but I was, very much so. The meeting began at the campus coffee shop. Anna set her bag on the chair and watched us like we were in a live-action film. So, you two, how long have you been dating? She asked, her tone casual but her eyes probing. I opened my mouth, but Jaden jumped in. 2 months. 2 months? He hadn't mentioned this before. Anna raised an eyebrow. Oh, so not that new, pretty established. Jaden glanced at me, his eyes saying, trust me. I tried to play along, even as my heart beat erratically. We met in class at the start of the semester, I added. Not a complete lie. Anna smiled. My bro looks different. Different. Jaden leaned on the table. The corner of Anna's mouth curved up. Yeah, softer, less rowdy. And he has this strangely gentle look whenever he glances at you. Jaden cleared his throat. Anna, ease up on the analysis. It's just natural. I'm telling the truth. She rested her chin on her hand. I think my bro really likes you. I nearly dropped my spoon. Ha! Jaden laughed loudly to mask the sudden waver from hearing that. Anna, come on. But I noticed his breathing shift just a little. Just a little. But enough to turn that comment from mere teasing into something more. After leaving the coffee shop, we took Anna for a stroll around campus. Jaden walked in the middle, his hand resting naturally on my back, while I tried not to melt with every passing minute by staring at the ground. When Anna dashed ahead to snap photos, Jaden leaned in slightly toward me. "You good?" he asked, his voice just loud enough for me. "I'm trying," I answered honestly. "Trying what?" "Trying not to breathe weirdly." Jaden chuckled softly. "What's weird breathing?" "I don't know. It's just, you touch a lot." Jaden stared at me for a long moment. Very long. Then whispered, "You don't like it?" My heart nearly hit the floor. "I didn't say that." "So you do like it?" He tilted his head, his half-smile loaded with meaning. I looked away. "I don't know." But Jaden spoke as if it were no big deal. "Ethan, I'm just doing what a real boyfriend would do." That made me pause for a second. "But we're not real boyfriends." Jaden didn't respond immediately. Then he looked at me slowly and deeply. "Yeah," he whispered. "But sometimes, you make me forget that." I didn't get a chance to react, because Anna called from ahead. "Bro, Ethan, come over for a photo." Jaden stepped back, but his fingers brushed the back of my hand unconsciously before he pulled away. Just a small touch, but it spoke volumes more than words. For the first time in this whole fake love charade, I wasn't sure what was acting, and what was real. Not sure if Jaden was only acting, and even less sure that I was the only one feeling this way.